Babs, and this is me rendering my latest illustration. I thought I'd do a little voiceover, talk you a little bit through my process, and I'm sorry if I get my grammar wrong sometimes. English is not my first language. And yeah. So recently something happened in my brain where I decided I don't know exactly what it was, but basically I just wanted to paint, and I wanted to paint a lot, and I wanted to actually do it. Actually be more present on my social media and do something I actually enjoy, or at least like find out how to enjoy it again. I feel like I'm one of those people who's a real perfectionist. I want every single detail to be perfect, and I've always been like that when it comes to drawing. But recently I've been focusing a lot more in enjoying the process and remembering what makes it fun for me, what I enjoy, how I enjoy doing it, and it makes me want to paint a lot more. And I can really recommend it to focus a little less on making the perfect drawing and focus a little more on making something that's fun to make. For the two people that are watching this, I thought I'd talk a bit about my process and what I've been finding that works for me. I don't think I've watched a lot of Speedpaint, I watch a lot of artists that I look up to and I really like, but I think it's really important to remember that even though something works for someone, it might not work for someone else, and that's okay. Sometimes it can be an inspiration to find what works for you. Here I am jumping from thing to thing. I was fixing the hair first, and then I noticed that I wanted to do the neck, and from the neck I jumped into what looks like the dress string. When I designed this dress, I wasn't really focused on how the dress would work. I just went with what I wanted to do, essentially. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense, and that's okay. And then from there I was like, oh okay, the flower is there. Just before I recorded this, I made sure to balance out my colors. Essentially, I've been learning about values. I've been drawing for like over 10 years. I didn't know what values were, and I recently realized I was watching a video from someone who said that values is how we read paintings, and I found that really interesting. I used to use really dark colors and really light colors together, and maybe that made my drawings not so legible, especially in a thumbnail. And I'm not just talking about social media, but what makes a drawing or painting or illustration appealing. And I recently learned about values. So the dress, if you've seen the process that I posted for this drawing on my Instagram, you'll notice that the dress was really dark in the first few stages, and then I turned it down a lot and raised the contrast and the saturation with the other parts with shadows, which made everything a lot more uniform, and I'm quite happy with it. The flower was meant to be a lot more blue, but after I did that, it turned out to be quite pale, and I was like, well, okay, the values are right, so I'm just gonna go with this. I'm just following the values at this point. Something about my process is that it's never been consistent ever in my life. My drawings are all different. I have the opposite of the same face syndrome, because I can't possibly do a face that looks similar to another one. Because I'm always trying new things. I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying what would work best. Here I was trying to liquefy the collarbone, and then realized that didn't work for me. I don't know how people use the liquefy tool that well, and so I just did it manually, and that was a lot faster than me figuring out that tool. So now I'm checking the values. I don't know how that works well enough to explain it, but essentially darker grays should be shadows, while lighter grays should be either the base color or the light. In my previous drawings, my values were all wrong. I have clothes that were like much darker than the skin or the hair, while I was trying to make this a lot more uniform. What I also found with this is that I could finally experiment with using different colors. So for example, in this case I wanted to add some blue and pink in the hair. That's what I find fun with painting, is just playing with colors and messing around and seeing what works and what doesn't. I don't like sticking to the traditional palettes, if that makes sense. And so what I can use blue that's the same value of a yellow, and that looks uniform. I mean, I think it looks okay. I hope it does. I like it. You don't have to like it. But my inspiration for this is a lot of artists who make shadows with a lot of like different weird colors. They don't use the same colors of the base essentially. And there's a lot of artists who do that as well. I'm very far from mastering that technique, but it's all practice. And that this is what I'm doing here. I'm essentially practicing so I can create the things that I aspire to create. This is a technique that whenever I use it, I always think of Sakimi-chan, who's a very famous artist. I mean, popular in the online community. They've been popular for a long time. I remember they were popular when I started drawing. But yeah, I recently decided to just paint on one layer, so that always comes in handy to not cross lines or shadows where they don't have to be. I don't like using it too much because seeing the lines confuses me a bit, but sometimes it's very useful. And that's me making that shadow a little bit more harmonious, a little more melodic. I can't think of a word to describe it, but describe what I'm doing right now, which is the point of this. But yeah, adding more pink, more popping colors, more popping shadows. Thank you so much for watching this little clip and joining me on my first voiceover video. You can find the complete speed paint here on my channel. The final drawing is on my Instagram and on Facebook. And yeah, let me know if you'd like to see more.